Long before there was an England, before crowns, parliaments, or flags, Britain was a land without a single identity. It was not a country. It was not even a vision. It was a place where survival came first and unity came last. To understand why Britain was repeatedly invaded, reshaped, and dominated by outsiders, you must first understand how deeply divided it was from the beginning. Celtic Britain was made up of dozens of tribes spread across forests, hills, plains, and river valleys. Each tribe had its own leaders, its own customs, and its own territory. Loyalty was local. People identified with their clan, not with the island they lived on. There was no shared sense of destiny, no common purpose that extended beyond immediate survival. What mattered was land, food, and protection from neighboring tribes. Life was hard and uncertain. Most people lived in small settlements made of wood, mud, and straw. Homes were basic, designed for shelter rather than comfort. Farming was the backbone of survival, but agriculture depended entirely on weather. A bad season could mean hunger or death. There were no large food reserves, no centralized systems to manage scarcity. Every tribe survived on its own ability to adapt. Celtic society valued strength, courage, and honor. Warriors held status, and conflict was common. Disputes over land, livestock, and resources often turned violent. Raids between tribes were frequent, and revenge cycles could last generations. This constant state of low-level warfare kept societies strong in combat, but weak in cooperation. Energy that could have gone toward building larger systems was spent fighting neighbors. Trade existed, but it was limited. Goods moved through local routes rather than large networks. There was no unified economy, no standardized currency, and no central authority to regulate exchange. This meant wealth stayed small and local. Power was measured in immediate control, not long-term influence. No tribe had the resources or vision to dominate the entire island. Religion played a central role in Celtic life. Spiritual beliefs were tied closely to nature, seasons, and land. Sacred sites, rituals, and oral traditions reinforced tribal identity. These beliefs strengthened internal bonds, but also deepened separation between groups. Different tribes worshipped differently, followed different customs, and guarded their traditions fiercely. Shared belief systems that could unify people across regions did not exist. This fragmentation had consequences. When threats came from outside, tribes responded individually, not collectively. There was no island-wide defense, no coordinated strategy, no central leadership to organize resistance. Each group fought for itself. Sometimes they allied temporarily, but these alliances rarely lasted. Distrust between tribes was too strong. Britain's geography made this worse. Dense forests, marshlands, and rough terrain made travel slow and communication difficult. Tribes remained isolated from one another, reinforcing separation. Without roads or shared infrastructure, cooperation was expensive and risky. It was easier to defend what you had than to unite for something larger. This environment shaped a mindset focused entirely on the present. Planning beyond the next harvest or conflict was rare. Long-term thinking was a luxury few could afford. Survival demanded immediate attention. This lack of future-oriented strategy would later become one of Britain's greatest vulnerabilities. When outsiders looked at Britain, they did not see a unified land worth fearing. They saw opportunity. Divided societies are easier to control than united ones. Each invasion that followed, from Romans to later invaders, succeeded not because Britain lacked brave warriors, but because it lacked coordination. The Romans, when they arrived, encountered fierce resistance from individual tribes. Battles were brutal, but Rome understood something crucial. Britain could be managed by controlling key regions and exploiting divisions. Tribes that fought Rome were punished. Tribes that cooperated were rewarded. Divide and rule worked because division already existed. Even after Roman rule ended centuries later, the underlying problem remained. The idea of Britain as a single entity had never truly formed. When new invaders arrived, they stepped into the same fractured landscape. History repeated itself. This early period explains something essential about Britain's later transformation. Unity did not come naturally to this island. It had to be learned, painfully, through conquest, loss, and failure. Britain did not begin as a nation with ambition. It became one only after realizing that division meant weakness. Understanding Celtic Britain is not about judging the past. It is about recognizing patterns. Power does not grow in isolation. Influence does not emerge from endless internal conflict. Britain had to lose control of itself before it learned how control actually works. In the next phase of this story, an external force would impose order on this divided land. Roads would replace forests, law would replace tribal custom, and Britain would experience centralized power for the first time in its history. But that order would not last forever, and when it collapsed, Britain would face chaos once again, setting the stage for the next transformation.